Welcome to the Coffee Break Show today. I want to let you know we are going to rock your world today. Richard Greene is with me. I'll tell you all about him in a second. We'll be right back. You're on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm. Today, Richard Greene is with me, and this man is his entire bio would blow your mind. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him as I know it from this morning. And I just want to tell you that first off, he is an advisor to world leaders. He's been on TED Talks. He's got over 3 million views on his TED Talk. And he's also a political mentor for Hollywood celebrities. Now, I know that everybody's looking at, there's so many conversations we could have with him. He has a best-selling book, that Words That Shook the World. He's got a second book out right now. And what we're going to be talking about today is going to be vast, huge, and with a lot of people. So listen, I know you guys are listening everywhere. I promise you, everything about this is going to be in the show notes. Everything about where you can get the books will be in the show notes. Everything you can contact him, any way you want to be with him, is going to be in the show notes. And so you can click on that. So if you're driving and you're listening to the show, be safe, be careful. If the weather is unruly, be careful right now and just listen and enjoy yourself. Richard, welcome to the Coffee Break Show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm really excited because even in the few minutes that we had to speak before, you are exactly the kind of host that I love, and the kind that I tried to be when I hosted radio and TV shows. And I'm really excited about this hour.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting because I was thinking, oh my God, he's such a fun guest and the conversation could go anywhere, but I want to dive right in. You made a statement earlier that I think is very important right now. And essentially, you're advising the world, you're advising world leaders and celebrities, and you've had TED Talks, and you're an author, you're a speaker, but you said this one interesting thing to me. And it's in regards to the state of the United States. America is more united than we think. And I first want to say, how did you get into this? I want to know the beginning of how you started unfolding this and talking about we're more united than we think. And I want to also talk about maybe how media is playing into the illusion that we're not as united as we think. And I want to hear it all. I asked 3 questions at once. You start where you want to, and just, answer whichever way you want.
So thank you. So I've done a lot because I'm old, but my focus has always been not on money or property or whatever. My joy, what gives me my dopamine and my adrenaline and makes me feel like I'm having a useful life and taking advantage of this extraordinarily precious incarnation, because I do believe we are souls that choose to incarnate
You got that right.
family, in a particular time, in a particular place, and that we come to the planet for 2 purposes, and 2 purposes only. And one is to learn and grow and evolve our divine soul. And the other is to contribute what we, based on all of our past lives and experiences, uniquely are able to contribute. And only by contributing that which you are uniquely able to contribute to the rest of consciousness can you really be satisfied. Can you really overcome depression and those anxieties that so many people deal with? Because once you've got this precious opportunity to do something that no one else of the 8 billion humans and the quadrillions of other beings in the universe can do, then you wake up every morning excited, even without coffee.
Yeah. And the way you said that, I cannot tell you how my heart is so warm right now. And the realization and focus of that it's so true. If we understood that on a deep level, the beauty and gift of the soul and the beauty and gift of the personality when you come in to incarnate, and what you bring, that specific talent, that specific gift, and how you feel the most fulfilled doing that. That is just understanding that. Just understanding that singular piece will create the manifestations needed to go ahead and have the quality of life, or your dream life. And I think the importance that you started with that was, it was ballsy. It was very ballsy. And it was also I was like, oh God, this guy really gets me. I really get him. I really like that. And I want to move on to this because
Can I just share something on this before you do move on? I, I, it's not that I get you, and I believe that I do. And it goes to the political thing about how we're more united. We're
yes,
all the same. We all are the same. Some people are more aware of what I just said, and some people are less aware. And
agreed.
I work even with world leaders and CEOs and celebrities. I go straight into this because how I make my money is I travel around the world teaching public speaking. And that's what my TED Talk, The 7 Secrets of the Greatest Speakers in History, is about. But the most important thing about being a great communicator, one in a small group, in front of thousands, on TV, whatever, is that you come from a place of authentic passion. We're about to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. He is nothing, even though he had the best public speaking skills in the world, he's nothing without that authentic, deep passion. And you can look at other,
Absolutely.
John F. Kennedy and
Yep.
Barack Obama, who I think is an amazing speaker.
I do
And
too.
so the way to get that authentic passion is to go inside and to tune into what I think are the 3 most important questions. And I ask my clients some of these kinds of questions, maybe not exactly like this, but there has to be, again, this authentic passion for you to be a great speaker. And
Yes.
you have to have authentic passion about even the most boring freaking PowerPoint slide in your deck. And that's what I do for CEOs and CFOs and, politicians. It's like, oh, I have to go through this boring stuff. I said, and I take their PowerPoint if it's in printed form and I rip it up. And I said, I'm not going to let you give that speech with that particular PowerPoint or that particular point unless and until you can find what is authentically passionate for you, what you are authentically passionate about with respect to that. And they go, well, it's boring. I said, well, let's focus on it. But let me step back a little bit and then I'll let you finish your question. 3 questions that we have to ask ourselves, the only 3 questions. And I don't think it's ballsy. I think it's honest, just like we're talking about Prince Harry. We can talk
Yep.
about later. Question number 1, who am I?
Absolutely.
Who am I? Am I just a bunch of protons, neutrons, and electrons? Or is there something else going on, right? So who am I? Why am I here?
Mhm.
Right? Because that's a miraculous thing that this assemblage of cells has come together in this particular form.
Absolutely.
You might want to figure out why. Einstein has a great quote about that. And then the third thing is, and what is here? What the hell is this? What is the universe? What is God? Or who is God? Or whatever, however you want to frame that. And once we, as a society, if we can have those conversations, then we go to a whole nother level, which is way beyond the crisis at the border and even
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
all of that.
Mhm.
So I'm done with my co-opting your question.
Well, no, I absolutely love that perspective a lot. And I think those 3 questions are super important. And, it's weird because sometimes when I remember being young and just before, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Blah, blah, blah. Those questions run through people, but then they don't stop to answer them. And I think, Richard, it's so important that you answer them, to get curious, to open yourself up to what is out there, what could be, and what's in here as well, because everything out there is a reflection of what's in here. To me, that's the basis where I go. And I also want to say, I believe that it's never too late wherever you're at. Because once you say, this is who I am, then another part of you unfolds, and this is who I am. And what I find for me is that I like to be more fluid in a way where, I say I am soul, therefore I have many possibilities and many purposes. I don't have a single purpose. I am purposeful. So maybe when I am talking to someone, like right now, we're talking to thousands of people all at once. And then sometimes I'm just talking to that one person. And that really, you're kind of both of those things. And I think those questions, those deeper questions, unearth the quality of life more people are looking for. I also believe, go ahead.
Let me just say, one of the reasons I am who I am is when I was 6 years old, I literally broke into a cold sweat trying to figure out these questions at 6. And I dedicated my life lying in my bed in New Jersey at the time, literally sweating, saying, I'm going to figure this out. And I can tell you more about that process. But the other reason I am who I am is because of my extraordinary parents, and especially my mother, who gave a TED Talk at the age of 87,
Atta girl.
entitled, It's Never Too Late.
Yep.
So again, you watch my TED Talk on public speaking, but way more important, Eileen Greene, Greene, It's Never Too Late TED Talk. And she talks about her journey where she got her master's degree at 75. She was bar mitzvahed at 72. I mean, on and on. And she's 93. And I think she has the world record for consecutive ping pong rallies that we do on the ping pong table that I sent to her and my dad at her house. She's 93. How many times do you think we have been able to hit the ping pong ball back and forth without making a mistake? Just a guess.
Yeah. Without making a mistake.
Yeah.
It's got to be over 200 times.
Keep going.
300.
Keep going.
500.
Keep going.
800.
Keep going.
No way. 1,000.
Keep going.
Wow. 1,200.
Very close. 1,263, and we have it on tape.
Wow. Fantastic. That's incredible.
And it inspired this nonprofit called Ping Pong for Good to actually get people out to play ping pong, because it actually prevents or slows down dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. It's actually the best brain exercise you can do. Ping pong, yeah. Because well, what goes on is your brain is going into hyperdrive to figure out the speed and the angle and the placement of the ball. And then you're communicating real time with every single muscle in your body to do that. And then again and again and again, a psychiatrist on a TV show on my mom said that it's like aerobic chess. Anyway, I
love it though. And the conversation can go wherever you want it to go. And I think that is pertinent, because it's like, there was this, I hope I get the quote exactly right. It was from Ray Kroc, the McDonald's guy. And he said, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotten. And I remember thinking, my mom used to tell me, it doesn't matter at what age, you can always be growing. You can always be growing. And that development is, something I live by. Like, at 93 or whatever you want to do is never too late. Never, never, never. In fact, I think that generates life force within the human body. I think that life force has to have some place to go, something to do, something to have meaning, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, of something that keeps you involved in your life living.
So I totally agree. Not a big fan of McDonald's. I don't like.
Me neither. I just remember the quote.
Burning down Brazilian rainforest to raise them. That's an issue, but Ray Kroc is correct in that statement. And we found out after Ray Kroc died that there is this thing called neuroplasticity,
Yep.
which means that even at 93 years old or 103, we used to think the brain, you had X amount of neurons and that was it. And when you had a beer, you had less and all of that. But you literally can create new neurological pathways and connections by doing new things, no matter how old you are. Your brain can literally grow when you're 100, but it only can do that if you get out and be active. And one of my favorite sayings, and it's my mom's as well, is use it or lose it.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
biggest cause of death is retirement and inactivity.
Yeah.
We're all going to go, but our body is going, oh my God, you're still going. You're still having sex. You're still doing whatever. I guess we need to keep flooding you with life force energy and all of the chemicals that can make that happen.
Yeah. I think she meant to say, you're speaking my, what is it? You're speaking my language, Richard. Yes. And that's kind of that's kind of the thing that I think is so important as we're moving into this. It's like, um, I just want to go a little deeper because I know right now I want to move where we're talking about where we're more connected as human beings. And this America's more united than we think. The first thing I think it starts with was some of the basic fundamentals. Well, we're both here for the same reason. All of us are. We are to grow and understand ourselves as soul and consciousness itself and raising consciousness, or that piece of it. And we are to bring some wonderful gift back down that only you can do. Everybody has that in common. And just those two things right there unite us. And then we can see that you're never too old to awaken. You can keep doing this, etc. And this is another thing that connects the collective in that oneness. And then I'm looking at now, um, for me, in order to be in that oneness, I have to be uber responsible for my oneness or for my, actions in that collective oneness. And when we say America is more united than we think, what do you mean?
Yeah. So when I said that, I wasn't talking about the spiritual dimension. If
Yes.
you go to the spiritual dimension,
Mhm.
I happen to believe, as Marianne Williamson has said, I mean,
Yeah,
she wasn't a great presidential candidate, but she's a really brilliant woman. I've known her for a long time. And she says
I love
there's
her.
there's really only one of us here.
That's right.
And I think, I love Michael Pollan and the discussions about plant medicine and psychedelics as tools, not as party drugs, right?
Yep,
As just
with you.
aping whatever, but as tools to have an insight that our ancestors in indigenous communities, for example, for thousands of years have had and have known, which is there is only one thing.
Yeah,
And that, and even in the Jewish religion, there's the Shema, and it said Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. It said, praise the Lord, all is God is one. The Lord is one. And it's been misinterpreted, in my opinion, as a Jew, to say, okay, there's only one God, right, as opposed to 1,000. But the real meaning, I believe we're all God. So I believe in pan-atheism or pantheism, which is that we're all God, right? And I know a lot of people get upset about that, but I can go into it. And that's why I wrote a book called E equals MC squared and the new definition of God, because I think we need to have conversations about that. And whether you're a Christian or a Jew or atheist,
challenge the status quo.
yeah,
Mm, mm.
it's based on Einstein and science, right?
Wow.
But to your answer, finally, we can get to politics. So I'd love to redefine things based upon my life experience, whether it's public speaking or politics. And or God. And the reason I say that from a political standpoint is that the vast, vast, vast majority of people in red states and people in blue states want the same thing. We want the same thing. For example, 93%, 97% of people by every poll want there to be enhanced background checks because they do not want themselves or their kids or their spouses to be shot down in a school or anywhere else by someone who should not have a gun.
Yeah.
The vast majority of Americans do not believe that it makes sense for an 18-year-old who cannot even, doesn't have the maturity, according to our culture, to buy a glass of beer.
Yes.
To walk into a Walmart and walk out with an AR-15. Okay, there's some people who disagree with that, and that's fine. This is America. You can do that. You can vote based on that. But the vast majority of America in red states and in blue states want that. The vast majority of Americans want Roe v. Wade to be restored. Even in red states, look what happened in Kansas, right?
I actually know this data is true for my own research. That's correct.
The vast majority of Americans, if they understood properly the full extent of the climate crisis, right? Then we get to, what's the quantity and the quality of good information in our culture? We're not all watching the same Walter Cronkite news.
Yeah.
Understand, and when they understand exactly why we in California are having unprecedented rains or droughts or fires, all of that, and that every McDonald's hamburger you eat that is raised from deforested Amazon rainforest actually makes it less likely that your kids and grandkids are going to live in a sustainable world, right? So once people understand that, they go, wow, I care about my kids. I care about my grandkids. I want to have a good quality of life. We need to pass even more historic climate legislation, right?
Yeah.
And right, so yeah, let's incentivize buying electric cars and so many other things. And I can go down the list on and on and on, and so I wrote an article. I said it's almost impossible to vote for Republicans after you read this. It's almost impossible to vote for Republicans after you read this. And it's on Medium, Richard Greene on Medium. And I listed 20 pieces of legislation that passed the Democratic House of Representatives under Nancy Pelosi, all of which are supported by the vast majority of Americans. When I say vast, I would say anywhere from 60% up, which is a super majority. Every single one of these issues, right? Gay marriage, all of these things, right? And virtually every Democrat, like 99% of every Democrat in the House of Representatives voted for these. And virtually every Republican voted against them. Elected Republican. But those elected Republicans do not represent even the people in their cities and states. And then, of course, 16 of these bills went to the Senate and were killed because of the filibuster. 4 of them were able to figure out a way through because of budget reconciliation, et cetera. So, but the vast majority so when people say, oh, I'm a Trumpster, I love Donald Trump, I'm a Republican, I'll never vote for a Democrat, I go, okay, cool. Well, I believe in democracy. And if the majority of America wants to go in a Republican direction, God bless us. I may not want to live here, but God bless us. That's your right. But I go through the list of these 20 bills and I said, let's just have an issues-based conversation and not a tribal conversation. And I don't want to hear what Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity said, because they're not journalists. They're not journalists. Let's go through these 20 things. This is from the congressional record. These are actual recorded floor votes. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What? And I would say even the most conservative Republican in Alabama or Texas who goes through that article of the 20 pieces of legislation that only Democrats support, they're going to agree with at least 15 of them. And so I say at the end, I said, so guess what? I have some news for you. You're a Democrat. They don't like it very much, but
I am very clear because I have gotten to the point over the years where I think both parties are corrupt. And I have been a staunch independent for eons because I really want to be able to listen. Like, I got to be honest, I'm going to be straight up front. When Marianne Williamson threw her hat into the presidential race, I backed her. I went right there. And the reason I did was I'm very spiritual, but it would have brought such a vastly new outlook to politics in such a way. And I wanted that to happen. I liked what she said. I watched her, and I got a lot of crap from friends, that were not exactly like that. I tend to lean a little more conservative than the average person. But I understand the points that you're making right now. And I want to let everybody know, I'm going to just put this up here. I put in the show notes, there will be his article that he's talking about on Medium. So you can just click the link and go read the article. And do me a favor, when you get to the bottom of the article, put those clapping hands up so that he gets some acknowledgement for this article, because it's important. So it's Medium. Thank you for doing that, Robin. I appreciate it.
I'm not looking for acknowledgement. I'm just looking for people to understand what is really happening.
Agree. I totally agree. And to raise that article up, they need to push that clap hand so more people can read it or see it.
Vickie, I want to address what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hear this all the time, and maybe we can clarify this. Mm-hmm. I do believe both parties are corrupt. I do not believe. For example, I saw a TikTok today where Adam Schiff was on Pod Save America.
Yep.
And Adam's a friend, and I've known him for a long time. And he talked about a plane ride that he had.
A plane what?
A plane ride, an airplane ride.
Plane ride. I'm with you. Okay.
That he had from Los Angeles to Washington, and he happened to be sitting next to Kevin McCarthy, who was also from California, from Bakersfield. Right, they're on the plane together for 5 hours.
Wow.
And he said, before you can tune into the movie and disappear and ignore the conversation, he had never had an actual conversation with Kevin McCarthy. And this was before the midterms. And Adam says, I think that Democrats, because the economy is strong and all these reasons, I think Democrats are going to win the midterms. And Kevin goes, no, we're going to win. We're going to easily win the midterms. And Adam said, no, I disagree. Adam admits on the podcast that he was wrong by 5 votes, by 5 House seats. But Kevin McCarthy then goes and publicly says that even Adam Schiff believes that Republicans are going to win the midterms. And so Adam walks across the House floor when he finds out about it and goes to Kevin and said, Kevin, I didn't say that.
Correct.
And Kevin says to him, well, you know how this place is, or do you know how things are? And Adam goes, no, I don't know. Right? You don't lie. So that's what I call corruption. The Republican Party seems today, again, I think there's some great Republicans. I'm really impressed with the integrity of people like John McCain and Mitt Romney, right? Mm-hmm. And even George W. Bush looks phenomenal these days sometimes. But the whole party seems to be based on this very loose interpretation of what truth is.
Or alternative facts.
Exactly. So Donald Trump lied, over 25,000 times, which, if I lied once, my mom did a TikTok about this. If I lied once, my mom and dad would literally wash my mouth out with soap, right? That's how important that was to my family. And then the whole thing about stop the steal and the election was stolen, you still have a majority of Republicans in the United States House of Representatives who believe that. And then you have the new Speaker of the House literally saying to another member of Congress, yeah, that's how it is here. We lie here. So there is, I think, a moral fundamental difference with respect to the truth, which is a spiritual quality, I believe.
Agreed.
And then, but to your point, I always hear this, and I've had arguments with Marianne Williamson about this specific point. And she goes, oh, both parties are corrupt. They're both compromised. They're both corporatists, and they take money from big corporations and lobbyists and interest groups. And I go, yeah, but Marianne, how do they vote? I don't care if you get $10 million from a corporation through a super PAC, but you vote to actually pass the assault weapons ban, or you vote to cut drug prices. For example, the entire Republican Party voted against putting a $35 limit on insulin per month, right? They voted against it. Democrats were able to get that in for Medicare, but not for other people. How many red states do you think have 0 people in them that have diabetes?
Yeah, I see your point.
Right? Why are they voting against their own people's interests, right? Some people cannot afford insulin and healthy food or food at all. Why are you? I mean, that's just inhumane. But the corruption, I believe, is from the party who prioritizes corporations and their well-being over the common person. And that's why Republicans unanimously, maybe with 1 or 2 outliers, voted against capping insulin at $35 because they didn't want to piss off their pharmaceutical donors. That to me is not the same, Vickie.
I see that. I can see your point completely, and it was well made. And I think that the bigger thing for me is that the undercurrent of political lying, and what I mean by that is, I believe that politicians, one of the best things they are good at is chopping up other people's words in order to maybe win the conversation or debate in such a way as to make themselves look empowered over another person. There isn't a point where I think politicians are actually listening to the constituent without there being some sort of, if somebody came by and was like, I don't like your politics, I don't like your this, whatever the reply would be to win the conversation. And I think when I vote independently, I'm not trying to hear how they're winning the conversation. I'm trying to hear the point they're trying to make. And I think the vast point you just made is super important, because if you ask Republicans right now, if you ask them if they lie, they're going to say they don't. They have the corner on, Christian religion. If you're a Christian, then you're Republican, and that's a bunch of crap. You can be a Christian Democrat as well. You can, Christianity has nothing to do with what side of the party you're on. I love the point that you made where you were talking about on these 20 something things, more than 60% of the people are there. And if you were a Republican, you would agree with 15% of them. And now the action, 15 of the list, 15 out of 20, I think it was 20.
Yes, 75%.
Yes. So, and then you're saying, then you're a Democrat. Well, what if you're something other than a Democrat or a Republican? What if we're something other than that, that was more collaborative or neutral in its thing? And I think the division of, a lot of people put a lot of weight into the party that somebody represents and not how they represent them. It's like, well, if they're a Republican, that represents me. And what I'm hearing right now is that that's not really true. And I get that. And I have this sense that you're more Democrat than you are Republican. And I look at it like I don't want to be either party anymore. I think the division in our country is like it's like a football game. Are you a Denver Bronco or are you a Miami Dolphin? And if you're not on this, and you're a diehard Miami fan or a diehard Denver fan, then that's what you are. It doesn't matter what play they're making, whether you agree with the player. It doesn't, our goal is to get the ball in the end zone and for our way of life, or et cetera. And then the rhetoric that a lot of people are like, well, the Democrats are doing this and the Republicans are doing this. And they put an against energy there. And I'm like, what if that was wiped out? What if there's that against energy? And that's why I don't sprinkle myself in the, oh, I'm going to choose a football team. I don't want to do that. I want to actually just listen to you tell me in an authentic way how you're going to vote about a topic that's important to me or not, especially when it surrounds gun violence. In the same way, we can't I love the point you make. You can't go out and get a beer at a bar at 18, but, oh, let's arm you with an assault rifle. And that I get that. I mean, there's a lot of that to me. There should be changes in those things.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of work. I've worked in 53 countries, and the biggest comment from my friends in other countries is, what is the deal with you and guns?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you cannot walk out of a liquor store with a Bud Light, but you can walk out of a Walmart with a machine gun.
Yeah.
So Vickie, listen, we obviously are very aligned on some deeper levels. So it's really meaningful to me to have been able to listen to what you said. And I want to address it. First of all, you say politicians don't listen. I think that's a stereotype. I know a lot of I probably know personally 30 or 40 members of Congress. And like the bell curve of human beings everywhere, you have some super, super great listeners. Like Bill Clinton was probably the greatest listener who lived. I give courses on how to listen like Bill Clinton based on my first conversation with him, which blew my mind. It's the listening secrets of Bill Clinton. Happy to do a keynote for your organization about that. And then on the other end of the bell curve, there are people who are completely ADD or self-absorbed or narcissistic, and they don't give a you-know-what about you, and they're only waiting to pounce on you with their thought. Got it? So that's true. There's 535 members of Congress. They're going to be distributed on that bell curve. There's that. The reason that I do believe that we do need to focus on parties, and there is this trend, especially amongst young people, oh, I'm an independent, right? I don't like political parties. And I say to them, what do you care about? Here's the way we transform politics. We turn everyone into a single issue voter, or you don't want to do single, pick your top three. Pick your top three. So, Vickie, what are your top three issues? What are the top three things you want our country to handle, to solve, to focus on?
Thank you for that, because I have actually a top four, but I'll do the top three. One has already been handled, which is marriage equality. And
right?
Yeah, I never thought I'd see that day where I could be married to my spouse, and I am very excited about that. The second thing is healthcare. And for me, every other country in the world has healthcare that is not, subsidized by insurance and, people paying at it. It's a just natural right in that country to have healthcare. Although I don't know everything about the healthcare issue, I know that thing that I would agree with that. I am also a person who wants to reverse Roe versus Wade. That'd be my top three right there.
Okay. Well, give me the fourth.
Oh, thank you. It would be, I would say, stricter gun regulations, because I am very pro the Second Amendment, ex-cop myself. And I
Wow.
Yeah. But that was so many moons ago. I'm such a different person now. But back then, I think, the right to bear arms is great, but I don't think the right to be stupid or careless with them is a right.
Okay, this is fantastic. So you may not call yourself a Democrat, but if we're being practical and pragmatic, the only way for you and the rest of us who care about those four things to get those four things is to elect Democrats. Now, it used to be, and I'm old enough to remember, I was an intern in Congress in 1974. I actually attended Richard Nixon's State of the Union address in 1974.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
That's incredible. Oh.
With Richard Nixon giving his last word, right? So I played tennis with Republicans and Democrats. Used to be that Republicans were far more moderate, even liberal, and that Democrats were more mixed because there were a lot of Dixiecrats who were very conservative, right? So you couldn't really tell how someone was going to vote based upon their political party.
I remember that.
Because of gerrymandering and Fox News and social media, we now have it like this. And people go, oh, that's horrible, that's horrible, that's horrible. We've got this and this, and there's no one in the middle. There is no middle on these issues, Vickie.
That's right.
Roe v. Wade, what's the middle issue? Okay, well, I guess, you could have a more conservative reenactment of Roe v. Wade, where instead of the first trimester, it's the first 2/3 of the first there are things like that. But you now, today, and I want everyone to get this, I've been in politics for a really long time. Again, it used to be you couldn't tell what the issues were for political, but now it's the easiest time to be a voter in the history of America, because whatever you want, there's an app for that. Yeah. But whatever you want, there's a party for that. That's whatever right. You don't want, there's a party for that. So let's go through your list, okay? Marriage equality. For God's sakes, it's 2023. Yeah. We're still debating this. It's crazy, right? So virtually 100% of Republicans in Congress, doesn't mean Republicans in the country, but the people who are in Congress represent the extreme for the Republican Party, in my opinion. Virtually 100% of the 222 Republicans in the House of Representatives and the 49 Republicans in the Senate are against marriage equality. There are a few exceptions, like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, right? A few exceptions, right? So that abortion, virtually 100%, right? Of the 218 Democrats, 217, there's this guy, Henry Cuellar in Texas, who's pro-life, but virtually every Democrat is for restoring Roe v. Wade and passing Judy Chu's Women's Health Protection Act, and every Democrat in the Senate and virtually every Republican in the House and the Senate is against it, right? Because they made a deal with the Christian right that they were going to be their party, right? Whether they believe it or not, that's how they vote. So on those two issues, you have to vote for a Democrat. Third, let's talk about healthcare. In 2010, I believe, when Obama came out with his Obamacare, he desperately wanted a single-payer system. And I want to remind people where we were before Obamacare. Where we were is that it's a pre-existing condition, right? You had cancer, you had a heart attack, you had MS, whatever it is that, or you were just obese or whatever. Whatever it is, insurance companies could say no.
That's right.
You had to go and pay an enormous amount of money to get care for anything, or you didn't get it. You didn't have it.
I remember.
And the fact that Republicans 50 times in the House of Representatives and the Senate tried to end Obamacare makes no sense to me. What is it? Do you want your own citizens in your House districts in your states to die because they can't get health insurance like every other industrial country in the world.
But that's what was happening prior to that, because those HMOs, is it HMOs? Yeah, HBO is the channel, HMOs. Those healthcare insurers right there, they would have to choose who was going to get coverage and who wasn't. They would turn you down and you would die. There was that. There was actually somebody who, I can't remember her name, some doctors who testified before Congress, and they stated that they should be in jail because there are people that were denied care, and she felt like she had murdered them because she was the one denying the care.
It's not even human the way our healthcare system is. It's
absolutely
inhumane, and people again around the world are going, "What's the deal?" But again, corporate profits, right, for drug companies and health.
I want to ask you this is because what I'm hearing or what I'm gathering, I want to make sure I'm gathering correctly. And what I hear right now that I'm not sure I agree with, because I don't know I'm listening to you, is that the Republican Party is the party that is backed by corporations and Christians or Christian organizations. The Republican Party is, and the Democrats are backed by a little more discernment. Is that what I'm hearing? Because what I'm hearing is that the Republicans are always opposing anything that would benefit their constituents, because really their constituent is corporations or religious organizations. Is that what I'm getting?
I would not say that they are opposing anything that would help their constituents. I think when there is a conflict between the average working person or the average citizen and strong special interest groups like the NRA, like Big Pharma, like big agriculture, for example, and then the very, very, very strong interest group of Christian nationalists, as I would say, or strong Christian groups, going to choose those bigger organizations and interest groups and corporations.
Money.
Because that's how they've identified the party, and they've made it with the devil. But again, Vickie, honestly, I don't care how it happens. I don't care about the explanation for it. That's why I wrote that article that you already put the link to, and people can follow me on TikTok. I've been really enjoying TikTok. It's at Civics Dean. CIVICSDEAN, Richard Greene, the Civics Dean. It's an agent of mine came in, like Bill Nye the Science Guy. All I care about, and that's what we should do. We elect legislatures to do one thing, Vickie, and that is to legislate. So all I care about, I don't even care if George Santos, in a way, on one level, lied about his background or whatever to get elected. I'm on some level, I don't care about that. What I really care about is he's going to vote against $35 insulin. He's going to vote against restoring Roe v. Wade. He's going to vote against banning weapons and background checks. He's going to vote against marriage equality, right? So we have to be very pragmatic. And that's why I wrote this article. And again, that's 20. There's more than those 20 issues, but all 4 of those are covered in that article. And it shows that today, and hopefully the Republican Party will come back more into the middle so we can have more compromise, right? I would love to see that. But right now, the only way to accomplish those things is to elect the magic number of America elected officials to get them passed. So politics, when Hillary lost because she won, right?
Yeah.
And also, don't get me started.
Don't get me started on that either.
Okay. Was in large part because Jill Stein in the Green Party took away more than enough votes for Hillary to have won in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, for example. There's that. But the real reason, and the reason Democrats didn't do better in the midterms is because in 2016, for example, there were 102 million American citizens who were eligible to vote who did not vote. 102 million.
Wow.
Most of those were young people and
Mhm.
people of color who share the values that you are sharing with me on your list of 4.
And didn't vote.
And do you know, we said, oh, young people came out to vote in the 2022 midterms. Actually, that's not true. I hate to break this to you, it's not true. Do you know what the percentage of 18 to 29-year-olds that voted in the 2022 midterms? Take a guess. What percentage? Everyone was so worked up about Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision and all of that. Young people came out to vote in droves. Guess what the percentage was?
16%.
Okay, well, it's not quite that bad. It was 27%.
That's still bad.
But guess what the percentage of 65 plus white people is?
It's got to be greater than that.
Like over 60%.
Wow.
So for every young person that votes, especially in a midterm election, there are at least 2 older people with very different values who vote the other way.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I'm going to interrupt you. Robin, would you please take care of the list there where there's somebody on saying, find yourself a hot girl here. Take them out of that live list. Do something, ban them, get them out. Thank you.
Is he addressing that to me or you?
No, I don't even want to put it up there. There's somebody who's got on the live, and some people, they put their links and stuff as the scroll is going and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm just like, that's got to go. It's not
any question or comment. So if you want to throw one at me, I'll be happy to address your listener.
No, I just am going to ignore it. He's not even worth the energy that I said to get rid of him. But I want to go back to.
Can you put a pause on? Let me just finish. The magic number. So civics is second grade arithmetic. Politics is second grade arithmetic. So what I want people to do is pick their issue and understand that it's a game. And that if you can get 218 people elected who agree with you about gay marriage or healthcare or gun violence prevention, if you get 218 who are going to sponsor and vote for that kind of legislation in the House, and you get 51 in the Senate who are in favor of that and willing to create an exception or a carve out to the filibuster, you now have 269, 218 plus 51, and then you just need one more, which is a president who will sign that bill. So the reason we don't have those things that you're talking about is because we have like 267 or 268. We just need to elect more Democrats mathematically to hit the magic number of America and to make those historic changes on gun violence, on healthcare, on so many other things. Anyway, go ahead. I stopped you.
I want to talk about the midterms right now because I was surprised. Everybody thought that the Republicans were obviously going to take over. And you made a statement that was interesting. And I wondered if that was what your opinion is as to why there wasn't the big Republican takeover that we thought was going to happen in the midterms. And I thought it was going to happen as well and was very surprised. And I wanted to also talk about, to me, there's 3 parties now. There is the Democrats, the Republicans, and then the Trump party. And I thought the Trump party really got their butt kicked in this particular, there was like so many people came out in droves in the midterm and voted. And in states where, I think it was is it Atlanta, Georgia, that had the recount? Yes, the runoff. And I was watching that too, because everything was so tight and so close and so neck and neck. And I want to know, why is it that you think that the Democrats held on to the Senate and how we lost the House? I want to hear that as well.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is because there are a lot of people, even who have more conservative values, who came to the realization that the current Republican Party is batshit crazy. And that the election deniers, the stop the steal people like Carrie Lake and all these Trumpists just didn't represent who they were, even if they were independents or even moderate Republicans. So I think it was kind of a come to Jesus moment for a lot of people who would not have voted for Democrats, but they said, I've had enough of this, right? Plus, a lot of women who would not otherwise have voted for Democrats go, you know what? I don't like the fact that my 50 years of my constitutional rights were just taken away like that.
Yeah.
And then the third party, yes, I agree. And I kind of, I hope for the Republicans' sake that they do have an amicable divorce from Donald Trump and Trumpism. But until that point, people have to vote. And there were only two choices. So, but by the way, do you know how many actual votes Democrats lost the House of Representatives by? I think it's, take a guess. They lost by 5 seats, right? So you need to hit 218, right? Republicans have 222. So, and how many, they got those extra seats by what? 218, 219, 20, 21, 22. So they got 5 extra seats by a total of how many votes?
11,000.
Very close. I think it's like 9,187 votes.
I couldn't remember because I remember thinking to myself, I watched that and I couldn't remember. It was very, very close.
So let me just say, in order to hit this magic number of 270, for example, there's the Women's Health Protection Act, which Congresswoman Judy Chu from Los Angeles area has brought up year after year. It passed the House of Representatives last year twice, 2 times, right? It went to the Senate. It lost by 2 votes. Why? Because Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, even though they supported that, which is to restore and codify Roe v. Wade, they voted against changing the filibuster rules. So instead of needing 51, which there were 51 with Kamala Harris breaking the tie, we needed 60, which meant it never was going to happen. So in order to restore Roe v. Wade, going into the midterms, and I was telling people and my celebrity friends and clients and whatever, I said, get this message out. We just need 2 more. So we need 270, we had 268. We had all of the 218, but instead of 51 in the Senate, we had 49, and we had Joe Biden with his pen ready to sign this thing. So now we lost a little bit of ground, but not that much. So if we can pick up 5 more votes in the House of Representatives, we get to reintroduce the Women's Health Protection Act, we get to pass it, and then we need to pick up 1 more senator by either replacing Kyrsten Sinema with somebody else in Arizona who will vote to change the filibuster rule. And then we need to re-elect a Democratic president, whether it's Joe or Kamala or Gavin Newsom or whoever. So we're only 5 plus 1, we're only 6 more people away, and then re-electing a Democratic president from not only doing that, but passing assault weapons bans, background checks, even better environmental legislation. So I just want those 102 million that didn't vote in 2016 and the 89 or whatever million that didn't vote in 2020. We need you. We need every single person who says politics sucks. I'm not into politics. I'm not into all this partisanship. Pick an issue that you care about, or 3 or 4 issues that you care about, and then say, who do I vote for to get the magic number of 218 plus 51 plus 1 to make it happen, and then I'm done. My work is done. I can go back to watching Netflix.
Well, it's the whole topic. We're at the top of the hour, but the whole topic is so interesting to me that I could talk for another hour. And first off, I want to thank you for bringing some clarity to the process and in sharing your perspective with us, because it's refreshing to see politics from your eyeballs, from the view that you have. And I want to talk about the last thing. We're going to go over a little bit. I want to talk about our elections being tampered with by social media, not at the voting booths, because I think a lot of what happened to Hillary in her run was, what was the name of that scandal? The scandal where
Pizza
uh,
date?
no, it's the one where they were the Russians were poking at our elections. And I believe some of that is going to continue on. And there was a European, oh gosh, I know it's at the tip of my tongue. There was a European company that was putting out social media for them. The the
Well, yeah,
create
Cambridge Analytica.
Yes, Cambridge Analytica. Thank you very much. And I think that our elections and or the minds of the voters are still being messed with. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's still going to be there. We don't know what we don't know. What can people do to start getting a little more clarity around what they're reading on social media and how it is influencing how they're going to vote?
Wow. Social media is a mess
Yeah.
because the algorithms, and as I said, I'm on TikTok and I love TikTok. Why do I love TikTok? Because every day the TikTok algorithm gets to know Richard Greene better. And
Yeah.
every day I'm getting more and more of what I crave, excuse me, which a lot of it is, the James Webb telescope and all these cool science things. But I'm going to go back to what I just said. And that is, let's make it simple. You're not going to be able to unwind all of the bots and the distortions that you're
Yes.
getting social media or from Fox News. If you watch, or if you have parents or grandparents who only watch Fox News and you're going to go visit them, say, you know what I'd love to do? Let's go out for pancakes and then let's come home and let's watch MSNBC or CNN and let's have a conversation. I'll watch Fox for an hour. You watch MSNBC or CNN for an hour. And let's just talk about the difference in approach and their vision of America. I think that's a useful thing to do. But I return to my main point, which is the answer to all of this is going back to what we were talking about in terms of why we incarnated. And how we need to just listen to ourself and to understand ourself and our authentic self and our authentic passion. So what issue, whether it's the environment or the immigration crisis, what issue is most deeply meaningful to you, right?
Mhm.
And no judgment about that, whatever it is, or a couple issues, or like with you, with four. And then go, okay, is there any legislation that can fix that problem, right? Or that can move it forward, whether it's the climate or gun violence or whatever. Awesome, great. And that's why I wrote this article, right, which you've listed, because that's 20 different pieces of legislation on 20 different pretty powerful issues. But there are
Yeah,
more.
I'm gonna read it right after the show. I'm gonna go read that and go, oh, I gotta learn more about this.
I don't care what Vladimir Putin or Russian bots do or whatever. All you need to do is say, okay, I care, let's say, for example, about restoring reproductive rights for women. Oh, is there a piece of legislation that would do that? Oh, funny enough, there is. Judy Chu's the Women's Health Protection Act. Huh. So when we get to 2024, no matter what state you're in, you ask your congressional candidates, are you going to vote for the Women's Health Protection Act if you get elected to the House or to the Senate or for president? And the people who say no, you go, adios. Thank you for your service. I can't support you because that is my issue. That is why Republicans have controlled Congress and now control the Supreme Court, because they created 3 single issue voter groups. One is for guns, right? So God, guns, and gays. So people who really love their guns, I don't understand it. And the thought of using an AR-15 to kill a deer, I think it's small penis syndrome, quite honestly, if I'm allowed to say that on your
You
show.
are.
But I'm not wrong, right?
I'm not going to disagree with you. That's for certain.
Okay, so that's number one. So guns, right? The Republican Party has got, but a minority position, right? The vast majority of people are with us on guns, right? Gays, right? First of all, I'm Jewish. Can someone explain to me why Jesus Christ's religion demonizes gay people when Jesus himself would have embraced every single gay person as total equals? Wasn't that his whole message of unconditional love?
Yeah.
As a Jewish person, what am I missing here? I don't get it. But the Republican Party has become the party of anti-gay, and they've been that way for a long time. But there are a lot of people that feel that way. So they've generated single issue voters on guns, single issue voters on gays, and then abortion, right? God, right? Oh, God says we can't kill a fetus. Well, I don't know if God really said that, but that's what they believe. So we have about 100 single issues that the vast majority of America wants, right? The Republican Party does not embrace even one issue. And I've had this conversation with Michael Steele and other Republicans. Michael was the chairman of the Republican Party. I said, can you give me one piece of legislation that the Republican Party has put forth in the last 20 years, maybe 15 years, that is not also supported by the Democratic Party, that is supported by a majority of the American people? There is not one. But they're so effective at mobilizing these single issue voters around these three very emotional.
I thought Trump was great at that. Trump was great at that.
Of course he was, you know, and it's all build a wall, the immigrants. Honestly, right now, we need more immigrants. We have all these jobs that are not being filled, right? So let's have comprehensive immigration reform. Let's have a system where we reduce illegal immigration, where we increase legal, productive immigration. And guess who's against that? The Republicans are. The Democrats have been trying. Harry Reid was a client of mine. He was the majority leader of the United States Senate. And I said, Senator, what is your biggest issue? He goes, immigration. But we couldn't get there because the Republicans wouldn't go along with anything that was seen as less than, you know, my God, these horrible aliens trying to come and kidnap your people and rape your daughters, right?
Yeah.
But the answer to all of this, Vickie, and I really appreciate the time with you. It's incredible to be able to fuse politics with spirituality.
I know, I'm digging this conversation so much. I'm like, holy crap, I can't even believe we have this kind of conversation happening. I'm really happy with it. But go ahead and finish your point.
Because I think politics is the most spiritual thing you can engage in.
Interesting.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because, you know, Marianne Williamson and Ram Dass and so many other people.
Yep.
By the way, I got to interview Ram Dass in person in 1989. I'll send you the clip on that.
Wow.
I mean,
I would love that.
Ram Dass, oh my God, what an incredible human being. Is that we create our own reality.
Yep.
You create your own reality. And you were talking about what's outside as a reflection of what's inside, right? Right? What do you think politics is?
The expression of that.
So we had a choice, for example, in 2016, in creating a Donald Trump, I believe, misogynistic, fascist, all sorts of things, reality, or Hillary Clinton reality, which was embracing the kind of issues that you and I have been talking about with very different values. We got to create our reality for 4 years by voting. And people who don't vote are not participating in the spiritual act of creating a collective reality.
I see what you mean. I see your point of view.
So again, go back to what is most deeply spiritually meaningful to you. Engage in that issue. Find the metrics, which are super easy to find, on who it is that you need to vote for. You can disregard whether they have a D or an R after the name. It doesn't really matter. That's how we bring the country together, because we are so aligned on the vast majority of issues that face our country.
I love that. We are so aligned to the vast majority of issues that are facing our country and our world. And I actually believe that over any other piece of rhetoric that's out there right now. I want to say, Richard, this was a powerful conversation to have. It definitely pushed the boundaries of, can you be open to having a different perspective that doesn't say we're so far apart? Because the data shows that we're not so far apart. How can they get a hold of you, hire you? If I have a guy who's saying, I need this guy to come to talk to my people at this company, how can they get a hold of you? Share that with us.
Thank you. That's very sweet. So I have I used to be Tony Robbins' lawyer back in the very, very beginning of his career in 1984 and 1985. And I was with Tony almost every day, and I saw him mesmerize audiences.
He's very good at that.
He's incredible. And I said, this is way more fun and meaningful than practicing law. So I quit my law practice at the end of 1985. I traveled around the world for four months. And I came back and I said, I want to teach public speaking so that everyone who has a meaningful thing to share with the world, whether it's a spiritual thing or a business thing or a political thing, whatever, or giving just a great best man speech at a wedding, right, can utilize what I have learned from Tony Robbins and studying the science of communication called neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah. So I created a very unique, very disruptive model of public speaking. It's represented in my TED Talk, The 7 Secrets of the Greatest Speakers in History. For example, you'll love this. One of the things that was the gold standard of public speaking before I got into the business was that if you were nervous or you wanted to be really effective, you would look over the heads of the people in the audience, or even worse, imagine them naked.
In their underwear. I remember being taught that. I mean, back in the speaker days, I remember that.
So that's a little bit like saying to me, oh, Richard, you're in Los Angeles. You want to go to New York? Okay, get on that flight to Honolulu. It's the complete opposite direction. It's the worst thing. The gold standard of public speaking a while ago, and still is being taught now, is the very worst thing you can do. Because what makes a great public speaker, whether it's Dr. King or Tony Robbins or Barack Obama or Ronald Reagan, whoever you care about, is that they were having a conversation
absolutely
from their heart about something that they were authentically passionate about. But here's the even most important point. Why? Why are you speaking? Why are you giving a business presentation? Why are you giving a sales presentation? Because hopefully, in your heart of hearts, you actually want to help that person. You really believe that your product or your service can improve their business or improve their life. So I tell my students when I do my keynotes and workshops, I say, I want you to write down these 4 words. It's all about them.
Agreed.
Public speaking is the #1 fear of all adults across the world. 41%, even higher degree of fear than death. And if you are focused on looking over the heads of the people that you were there to help, or or embarrassing them,
connection,
punishing them by imagining them naked, which, by the way, unless it's a super gorgeous, well, if it's a super gorgeous audience, that'd be distracting in one way. If it's a not very gorgeous audience, that would be a distraction. So I don't get that thing at all. I mean, some of the people in my audience, I do not want to even imagine them being naked. Okay, but the most important thing, it's disrespectful. You're there for them. And when people get that you really are there for them, they will not pay attention to any uhs and ums or whatever, because they get it and they're going to fall in love with you, and you're going to be. So I'm actually starting two quick things. I'm taking on 10 private clients for a decent amount of money who want to be, for all of 2023, I'm going to coach you for all of 2023, and I'm going to make you as good as Tony Robbins or John F. Kennedy in your own unique way. So if anyone's interested in that, please contact me. My email is richard at, and then the name of my book, Words That Shook the World. Okay, Richard at wordsthatshooktheworld.com.
Words That Shook the World. Richard at wordsthatshooktheworld.com.
Wordsthatshooktheworld.com.
You know, so, I want to interrupt a second because I have a memory, you know, when the way I really learned to speak was by observing. And I remember this one particular day, I went to go see Deepak Chopra. And he came to Denver, and of course I bought the extra tickets so I could stay up front with him. And there was maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people in the audience. The place was really packed. And so when he came out on stage, and his opening act, so to speak, the opening speaker, the first time I heard him was T. Harv Eker, and this was like 2004 or something. I think he's a good speaker.
T. Harv. I've spoken at conferences, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. So anyway, Deepak Chopra comes onto stage, and he comes into the center, and he looks at the audience and looks around, waves, everybody's, you know, hey, applauding. And then he says, so what do you guys want to talk about tonight? And he looked and he goes, shout it out to me. What do you want to talk about? So the audience begins hollering this and that and the other. And he goes, oh, okay. All right. I know what you want me to talk about. Then he just stepped back and let it come through him. And I was like, now that's a speaker, because there was a point of divinity meeting the current reality in that there, and he just let it through him. And I watched both speakers, and, you know, T. Harv Eker was impeccable. I watched him a couple of times speak there. But from that point on, I never wrote a speech again.
Oh my God.
I got up on the stage every single time I speak, and I'm like, the topic is there. And if I move my ego out of the way and allow the divine through me, whatever I'm saying, whoever I'm with, it has its perfection. Now, I do also believe in having props because it helps the audience connect with you. If you have that PowerPoint piece that has the words on it or the points you want to make, etc. But I really believe that there's in divinity, the authenticity piece of it when you're connecting with your audience. Because you're right. I think that picture them in their underwear or naked or look over them. You are completely disconnected and they're disconnected from you as well. And in that level of authenticity, when you're making that connection with them, it's not so much about the presence of what you're talking about. It's about the presence of you, because everybody is listening on multiple levels. They're not listening just with their ears. They're listening to your presence. They're vibing you out the entire time you're on that particular subject. They know when they know inside. And that's when the sale is made. That's where the connection and the sale and the thing going forward is made. And that's what Tony Robbins has. So I know that some of you are out there going, why isn't my message catching fire? And maybe perhaps it's the way you learned it. And here you are with Tony Robbins, speaking coach, right in front of you that you can utilize. Now, I want to be careful. I have a huge audience and I appreciate y'all, but I will tell you this, there's only 10 of you that he's going to pick. 10, that's it, 10 slots. So your entire job right now is to not think about it. Your job is to absolutely go for it right now. It is, don't wait, because 10 slots are just, I don't know, it's like an hour.
Vickie, you're amazing, and you're demonstrating what you're talking about because it's very passionate. I want to clarify two things. First of all, I was Tony's lawyer and administrator and a PR person and whatever, and we were partners in helping him get his
Great.
business
Good.
on. No one needs to teach Tony Robbins how to speak.
That's
But
true, because the man is
no, he's
amazing.
but again, what I learned from Tony, so many things, and he's still one of my dearest friends. He's truly a remarkable human being,
Yeah.
and changed my life, is that it's all about authentic passion, right?
Yep.
And every single thing Tony talks about comes from that passion. And you go, well, he has so much energy. He has so much energy because he knows where to tap into to get the universal infinite energy, just like Marianne Williamson, any great
Life force.
And the other thing I want to correct is so I have a couple things that I'm doing in 2023. I'm taking on 10 students who are really interested in getting to that level, but I do keynotes, right, all over the world. So if you'd like me to come to your company, your organization about public speaking, or about how we can come together, it's in a political way to bring the country together, to inspire and mobilize people to engage in creating this shared common reality through politics, I'm happy to talk about that as well. And then the third thing, if you're not interested in a keynote, or you don't want to work one-on-one, or you can't, I'm going to be doing at an incredibly ridiculous, my friends are yelling at me for how little it is, but I want to help everyone, because that's where I get my juice.
Beautiful.
I'm going to be doing an online course.
Great.
That people can do anywhere in the world, a 7-week, The 7 Secrets of Public Speaking workshop online. So again, just communicate by email, richard@wordsthatshooktheworld.com.
So if you're driving right now, relax. We have it in the show notes. It's up on screen right now. It's richard@wordsthatshooktheworld.com. richard@wordsthatshooktheworld.com.
So just one thing, since Prince Harry is out talking about a lot of things, right? I just wanted to share that what I'm going to share with people is what I shared literally, and it's an amazing thing. It was certainly a highlight of my life. What I was invited to Kensington Palace in 1996 to share with Her Royal Highness Princess Diana. Because Princess Diana, like 41% of all adults, was terrified of public speaking. There was one time where I started to talk about one of her earlier speeches that she gave when she just became a princess, and she puts her hands up. She goes, "Stop. I don't even want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hear about it. It was too painful."
Yeah.
But what I shared with her, because she said to me, and this whole thing about having a prepared speech, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so impressed." And this was when she and Charles were getting divorced. She goes, "I'm so envious, actually. I'm so envious of Charles. He can just get up there and tell a joke, and he's so comfortable and confident with that." And I said, and this is one of the things she really liked, I said, "With all due respect, Your Royal Highness, once the prince is done with the joke, he's got nothing. And you have everything."
Yeah.
People connect with you.
Yes.
All you need to do is to just be yourself and have a conversation from your heart about the things that you are passionate about. And it's going to work. And you're not going to be nervous, and people are going to love you. And I do believe that if she had lived, and I was at her funeral and it was devastating, had she lived, given her values and how much she did care, and how much, like Harry, she was a rebel, right? She would have made an even more monumental
Greater impact. Yeah. Everybody remembers where they were when she died.
No, absolutely. And there are 8 billion different but equally powerful Martin Luther Kings or Tony Robbins or Princess Diana. But the only way to get there is to be 100% authentically yourself, not 99, but 100%. And so many clients come to me, CEOs and political candidates, you know, and they have their speech and they're trying to memorize it. I said, no. And, you know, like, I'll rip it up. And I'll say, no, let's put this into an outline. So that you, and then fill it with stories and anecdotes where you can be fully yourself. And then you're going to have all that extra energy that you're putting towards remembering what it is that you're supposed to memorize can now go into creating this circuit of electrical energy between you and the audience, where people are going to walk out and they're going to just be completely.
Thank you. I love that you just said that, because that is, you know, that's possible. That right there is really absolutely possible to create that circular thing of energy. You guys, I know I'm having a hot flash right now. Get over it. It'll be all right. Whoo, God. Richard, it has been so awesome to have you on the show. We are definitely having you back on the show, definitely sometime in the future. It has been just such a blessing to have you here. And so many things to talk about. We're going to unpack more later when he's back on the show again. I want to let everybody know everything's in the show notes. Please get a hold of him. He's got courses. He's got 10 spots for people who are serious about really excelling at speaking at a celebrity or the best level in their authentic self, getting their message out to the world. And you can get a hold of him at Richard. Let me get this back up one more time so I can get this back here. Comments. Boom. Let me just put it up there. It's Richard at wordsthatshooktheworld.com. Richard at wordsthatshooktheworld.com. Thank you for being on the Coffee Break Show today. I appreciate you so much. All right. Every week we have the best guests. Wait a minute. What?
I just want to thank you. I mean, this is probably the best podcast I've ever been on. You're amazing. And I just love how deeply authentic you are. And even though you have some strong ideas and opinions and thoughts, you're such a great listener. And I felt that every word that I said, you were taking in and you were processing and digesting. And that's the very best that anyone can ever ask of a human interaction. Thank you.
You're going to make me cry. Whew, thank you. I'll see you guys next week.